and welcome to the Kink Perspective. My name's Chris. I'm a psychotherapist and consultant. On today's episode, I want to talk about something that I've seen, especially in the newcomer area, or those people who are looking at the lifestyle or have been dabbling through readings of erotica or porn, kind of getting a different view before entering. While I don't necessarily equate erotica or porn to our lifestyle, people that are kind of looking, they're testing their own limits and apprehensions to coming into the lifestyle. We need to understand that when we dive deep into the world of BDSM and explore these intersections of our emotions and our feelings and our thoughts, it's really something that can be daunting. And I know there's a lot of people out there in the lifestyle that can relate to this. The fear and that apprehension that arises when breaking away from our societal norms and embracing the BDSM lifestyle. What do I mean by societal norms? Well, with societal norms, for the most part, for many of us, for many people globally, that typically means we are in monogamous relationships. We meet someone organically or through a work meeting place or maybe through a family member, whatever the case may be. A dating app seems to be more nowadays. And we date them for a while. We maybe move in together. We romantically become involved. Our emotions mixed. Everything aligns. And we get married and have a family. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There's still nothing wrong with that to this day. There are many people within the BDSM and lifestyle community that live monogamous relationships. They just have this activity together on the side that kind of enhances their relationship, right? But it's different from a societal norm because society wouldn't expect us to then, hey, John, hey, Mary, how was your weekend? Oh, great. Yeah, we just watched Netflix. And in reality, that they had a 4-hour bondage session and interrogation scenes and impact play. And the reason why Mary's wearing long sleeves is not because she's being abused by her husband, because they just had a massive impact scene. And, she's cherishing the memories and he's remembering. And they actually might even seem more connected emotionally and spiritually and mentally than most other couples there. But the reality is that these societal norms typically dictate our lives. Now, there's nothing wrong with the vanilla world at all, and I'm not bashing it. It's natural to feel scared as we venture into uncharted territory. It causes us a moment of pause, right? But it's important to recognize that this fear can be powerful in a way that it's a catalyst for personal growth and liberation. And that's really what the lifestyle in general provides for so many people. It becomes this conduit to this part of our sexual identity that we get to explore. For some, it can go on the extreme ends where we're talking heavy masochism or extreme bodily fluid exchange like Roman showers, so vomit play, or scat, or water showers, right? Or humiliation, degradation, or maybe more the caring and caressing, or just the bondage, or like being tied. Whatever it is that brought you to the lifestyle, those are the things that are quite different, right? And from typical relationships where if I'm dating somebody and I go out and I pick them up and we're going to go to a movie and we have a plan in our head how the date's going to go, we might go out to a club and go dancing. This is typically breaks from how we normally would see some of our BDSM activities. So I really kind of want to delve into the depths of this unknown today and talk more and discover along the way with you how we really can overcome some of these barriers. And there are a lot, and for many people, they're going to vary. So I'm going to cover a few of them, right? And first, I really want to look at challenging these societal constructs, right? In essence, the power of breaking free from what we know and entering into what we don't know. One of the main reasons why we enter the BDSM lifestyle is the fact that we know that it's intimidating and it requires us to challenge deeply ingrained societal constructs and norms that we have, for the most part, grown up with, right? From an early age, we are taught to adhere to certain expectations, behaviors, roles deemed accessible or acceptable by society. Stepping outside of these predefined boundaries can evoke feelings of uncertainty and vulnerability. And however, it's precisely in this breaking away that we find this liberation and authenticity in our lives. And by embracing BDSM for ourselves, we challenge these traditional power dynamics and explore alternate forms of expression, connection, love, and another side of ourselves that we transform into. I've often joked that this we wear masks in life, right? This is something we all do. We go to work, we have our work hat or our work mask on, and when we're at home, we're much closer to being our authentic selves. When we put something like BDSM in the mix, this becomes another part of that our authentic self, right? And we have different masks when we see our family or our friends. We might be more jovial around our friends or a little bit more apprehensive around family, depending on how close you are with them or how drama filled it is. But this is one way. BDSM is one way. The lifestyle is one way that we are allowed to explore this sexual identity of ours, which way it's going to go, and how we want to pursue it, and who we want to pursue it with, right? Whether it's our partner or if we're single and we want to start exploring on our own, we just want to start learning self ties, right? All of these different things. And it's it is really thrilling. It is frightening at times because we don't always know what we're doing. We don't know the questions to ask. And it's one thing that when I talked about this recently on social media, I put something out there where I said, we all have to remember we started off vanilla as once. We were all vanilla. And we eventually got into the lifestyle and we became more comfortable in our own skin. So when there's new people out there, and your age doesn't matter. I don't care if you're 18 or you're 90 and you're just coming into the lifestyle. If you've been here for longer than 5 minutes and somebody's asking a question and you have some expertise, be nice, be courteous, explain it to them. Because if you're hostile towards people, if you're hostile at a dungeon or a public event, we're driving people out of the lifestyle. And by asking questions, this is how we learn and grow. It's really important to remember that the fear we experience is often rooted in our societal conditioning rather than really any inherent danger, right? We know that if we go into the lifestyle, I'm more than likely not going to be murdered, right? Or at least we hope so. We don't know who we're going to meet. I'm not saying there's a bunch of murderers in the lifestyle, but the reality is we spend months and months, or we should be. I still puzzled by people who are playing with brand new partners that they've met after 5 minutes. But we should be spending months getting to know someone, months talking about what we are interested in, our physical health, our mental health. We should be talking about how often we're available for play, what type of things we should be learning. And on all of that time, we should be on a personal journey of growth where we're absorbing things from the community. We're out reading material. We're out looking at forums. We might be following people who are, their extension or their time within the community is a lot longer than ours. And they're not there just posting photos for the sake of posting photos. They're actually talking about their experiences or writing about their experiences, and whether or not they resonate with us, those are the people we may want to kind of gravitate towards, right? As for me, like when I look at social media, especially all the different websites that are out there between the Twitters and the Instagrams, and a lot of the times these people that are claiming to be exhibitionists, for me, for the most part, all I see is attention-seeking behavior and people who are possibly even codependent. They need all this love and adoration from others, and I just tend not to give it to them. I'm not trying to feed somebody's ego just because they posted a photo. To me, that has nothing to do with BDSM. Or on BDSM websites, they're posting videos and photographs of them having sex. Those things, again, have nothing to do with BDSM, and they're giving the wrong impression, especially to new people that are coming in and then have these apprehensions, that they then believe that they need to be pressured into having sex And then in turn, we're also not fostering the growth of new dominants coming in, because then they see this type of behavior. And that's conditioning, right? And if we condition them to believe this, it becomes this wheel that we're currently caught in, especially in a lot of social media places. But I'm digressing a little bit here too much, and I'm going to, kind of get this back to where we are. So, as we're really navigating as a new person entering these uncharted territories, we discover the strength that's within us to question and redefine our own sexual identity, our erotic desires, and our personal relationships. It's potentially a way we can enhance these areas for ourselves, right? We might have partners who are understanding, that might be willing to come on this journey with us, and we might oftentimes find out that some of our partners, this doesn't float for them, and then we have a decision to make. We have to then understand and once again enter uncharted waters by exiting a relationship potentially to enter something new, such as the BDSM lifestyle. And you hear me often refer to it as a lifestyle because it's a way people conduct themselves with respect, with integrity, with care. And that's just scratching the tip of the iceberg when I say those things. I really reinforce them all the time because I think people believe reading erotica, or especially when 50 Shades of Stupid came out, it really damaged the visibility and the viability of what BDSM is, right? And that kind of leads me into my next point when we're talking about all these apprehensions, is we have to then get over and overcome our own internalized judgment, right? We have to learn to embrace ourselves and allow ourselves to go through self-acceptance. And this is a significant aspect of the fear that's associated with entering the BDSM lifestyle as we know it, right? Inside of this lies the internalized judgment we may hold towards ourselves, right? I've read stories recently where people were talking about that they're nervous when they're getting into scenes. It causes them to shake. It causes, because they're unsure of what's about to happen. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, that person should be having the discussions with their dominant or whoever their play partner is going to be. Absolutely, I completely agree. But that doesn't, just because we know what we potentially the scene may look like, doesn't remove our apprehension and fears that we have along the way. Not everybody likes pain, so experiencing pain for the first time, while it can be a cathartic release, is not something that we're used to, right? We may have never been punished as a child, or we may never have been spanked, so we don't know what that's going to feel like, and our mind is wandering. We're seeing all these things, we're smelling all these new sensations. We feel when we're putting a submissive on maybe a device for spanking, they're feeling all these new textures. So everything is brand new. Or maybe for a dominant that's new, and this is going to be the first time they're doing a solo scene by themselves without their mentor. There's going to be that nervousness for them, and their hands might be shaking a little bit, or they may not be impacting as much. So we have to kind of keep these things in mind and understand that we hold this judgment towards ourselves. And on a bigger scale, we have to look at how society often stigmatizes non-traditional practices, right? Brands them as deviant or abnormal. We did this in psychology for the longest time. We branded all of these behaviors. To this day, sadism, and masochism are still branded within the DSM-5 as disorders. But the diagnosis process for that, outside of probably someone that is a sadistic serial killer, is typically not branded as a sadist. Not in the sense that we understand it as far as the lifestyle goes, right? So we got to remember that while we may internalize these judgments, these things then lead to self-doubt and fear of rejection. Now, one good thing that we've learned about the lifestyle over time is that we become more rejection resilient. I gave an example to somebody the other day. Was when I was having a session with somebody we did a comparison between a vanilla style relationship and a BDSM style relationship. And the first thing I said was, in a BDSM relationship, if we're meeting and talking and we're talking about maybe, we're at the point where we want to start going to a future scene, they may express to me, okay, I'm a masochist. Great. I'm a sadist. So we're going to click right there. And then they're going to express that during their masochist scenes, they prefer rope to being bound by rope versus being bound by, let's say, a handcuff or a leather restraint. Now, I'm not a fan of rope. So this becomes our first negotiation point and a rejection point. Now, neither one of us is going to be offended that I'm rejecting the notion of rope and that they may reject the notion of handcuffs, for example, right? Or I'm big into interrogation scenes and they say that's a no-go area for them. I'm going to take that rejection with just a grain of salt and move forward until we can kind of get on a plane where we're both operating in a safe and comfortable space, right? Now, if you take this to a vanilla setting and you've got one person who is saying, oh my God, I really love the arts. I love going to museums and art shows and operas and all that stuff. And on the other, you've got the partner going, God, that stuff is stupid. I would never do that. I hate all of those things. I'd never get involved, right? The person that enjoys those things now is going to feel that shame, maybe some anger, rejection, and they're going to take it personally. Where we in the lifestyle don't take rejection that personally, right? So kind of getting back to my point here about self-acceptance and our internalized judgment, to overcome this hurdle, we really must cultivate self-acceptance and self-compassion. We have to give ourselves a break. Embracing our desires and the interests without shame or guilt, it's a truly transformative process. It requires us to challenge the negative narratives that we've absorbed and developed during a healthy sense of self, by creating a healthy sense of self-worth. If we don't believe we have value, if we don't think that we're worthy enough, then anybody who crosses our path, we're always going to be meager to. We're always going to defer to them. And if we meet the wrong person, it's going to exacerbate those types of feelings, right? By acknowledging that our needs and our desires are valid and deserving of exploration, we can really start to begin to shed this fear and fully embrace the BDSM lifestyle as an empowering path towards self-discovery, self-awareness, self-acceptance, and our erotic exploration into this new chapter of our life. It may take time. We need to understand as well that this is not the lifestyle itself. It's not a sprint. There's no prize at the end just because you've now learned how to start doing knots, certain knots in shibari, for example. I'll probably get that wrong because I don't know anything about rope, but I know a lot of people do. But there's no prize if you learn how to do OTK, so that's over the knee spankings. Or there's no prize just because you are really good at latex maintenance, right? There is no prize for all of these things. There's just a pure love for what we do and what we enjoy, and then embracing that joy of the lifestyle when we're around others, right? Which kind of leads me to my next point. And that's really building a supportive community and finding that strength in connection. And one of the most effective ways to combat fear and apprehension in the BDSM lifestyle is by seeking out a supportive community. Now, a lot of people end up turning to online because there's anonymity there, right? We don't have to talk about who we are. We don't have to say what we do for a living. We don't have to do a lot of these things. But that's limited to me. When I look at places like fetish.com or Twitter, Reddit's, FetLife, it's a mixed bag. You don't know if you're getting a story. It's the same thing when I tell people that look at photos and ooh and ah at photos. Well, you're not understanding the hours of negotiation that went into the setup or the detailed conversations that they've had. All you're seeing is a millisecond of time captured and shared. Right? You have to be willing to kind of really put forth the effort. So yeah, I think online is a great starting point, but you need to then start seeing what your community's like. Now, if you live rurally or in a state or a country that doesn't really have a big BDSM scene, then you have to figure out where one is. Maybe, I know COVID locked down a lot of things, but we're kind of out of a lockdown era. We're still in a COVID era, but we're kind of moved past lockdown, hopefully for good, right? But we need to understand that we have to surround ourselves with like minded individuals who share similar experiences and understand the intricacies of the lifestyle itself. And through them, help provide a tremendous sense of reassurance, right? And belonging. If we're around them, we're going to feel like we're part of this bigger group, this bigger family, right? When I go to a function and I haven't seen, the leather community I used to connect with in the States, well, obviously where I live now, that's a different community, but I still feel part of that. When I go to these functions or I go to these play parties, I still get a chance to reconnect. And no, for the record, I don't wear assless chaps. That's been asked. I don't do that. That's not for me. And there's nothing wrong with those who do, but that's just not for me. My behind will stay where it belongs, right? But this is kind of for me is a cornerstone for those of us coming into the lifestyle, this strong support network. And it not only helps us navigate the challenges, but it also offers so many things. We can find people that'll give us valuable guidance. They'll point us in the direction of really good resources. And maybe through time, we learn and find these spaces to express ourselves authentically, right? By connecting with others who have faced similar fears and uncertainties, we gain the strength and the courage to embrace our true selves without reservation. And that's a big deal, right? Together, we can dismantle these barriers that hold us back and create a supportive environment that fosters personal growth and exploration and empowerment. And this is one of the things that I actually talked about in my book, how we have to foster a better sense of community, especially within the lifestyle, and how we can manage and work on this, because communities globally sometimes seem to be fractured. A lot of communities seem to be marred in drama, right? Who's sleeping with who, or what sub went to what dominant, or this dominant, I don't like the way he spanks, so we're never going to go to him. We're going to warn others because his spanking is too hard, or whatever the case may be. They get marred in and bogged down with the drama instead of filled with the joy of why we're all there in the first place. I'm not talking about, again, and I don't, this episode's not about getting into when there's assaults or anything like that. So that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not dismissing those things, but that's not what this is about, right? Not today, right? We have to remember that building our community, not only supporting our personal growth, especially if we've been within the lifestyle, we're constantly learning. We're constantly growing. I learned some wonderful things a couple of weeks ago about how using tinfoil and zip ties, and it's just was incredible. It was a great demonstration, and I was grateful. It was like watching a living science experiment, right? And through that, we foster teaching people who are coming in, and we give them an opportunity and a space to constantly ask questions, to learn, to be better, to be part of the community, not be on the outsides of it looking in. Or worse, not teaching people anything and let them make shit up on their own and then go off and screw it up for the rest of us. And so then society keeps looking at the BDSM world like we are a bunch of deviants. And that just isn't true, right? I want to say this. Venturing into the BDSM lifestyle, it can really be daunting, and I know it can be a scary prospect. By recognizing that fear as a natural part of the process and understanding its origins, we can begin to navigate through it. We can take our time. We can break away from these societal constructs and embrace our self-acceptance, our worthiness, our own self-value. And hopefully, as we move into the community more, we really start to build a supportive network and community because these are the crucial steps towards overcoming our apprehensions and our fears. And through that, we're allowed to fully embrace the liberation and empowerment that the BDSM lifestyle offers to so many of us, right? I know the unknown may be intimidating, but it's within those uncharted territories that we often find our truest selves, our most authentic self. We're allowed in these areas to explore our identities and our sexualities in a safe, consensual way, right? But if I can offer you any advice, let go of that fear. Step into the unknown and embark on a journey that you're going to truly enjoy. It's not a race, it's a marathon, so take your time, right? So I'd like to hear from all of you if you've had any thoughts about this, and let me know about when you first entered the lifestyle, because I don't want to just talk about my experiences. My experiences were long ago in Atlanta. My God, over 20-something years ago in Atlanta when I first broke out. And in my beginning, when I worked with my mentor, I signed a contract that I couldn't take a submissive for a year until I trained, and I agreed to it. And he explained why, and I was okay with that. But when I really found BDSM, my preconceived notion of it was that, oh, it's just a bunch of people with chains and whips beating other people. I had no clue. Yes, it is those things, but not the way I thought it was. So I mocked it. Secretly, I didn't know I had already been involved in the lifestyle until it started getting explained to me. So I really want to hear your thoughts on this. Maybe talk about your first experiences within the lifestyle and what that felt like for you, however long ago that was. If you are listening to this on Spotify, I do ask if you would, on the app, rate my show 5 stars so other people can find it. I really do appreciate more and more listeners that are coming to the show. I've got listeners from, I think it's got like 60 or 70 countries now. Morocco, hello. Italy, Eastern Europe, thank you so much. Appreciate it. And for those of you who are looking for something, maybe a little bit, if you have some other apprehensions, pick up my book, Tangled Desires, The Intersection of BDSM and Psychology. That's out now wherever you get your ebooks from. Kind of goes to support, it's been a project of mine for about a year. It goes to support my show. I don't charge for my show or charge for any of my writings. But yep, like I said, let me know what you think in the comments below. Really looking forward to this conversation and finding out about people's individual journeys. Until next time, everybody, be safe and stay kinky.